So it's funny, I was at the doctor's office this morning and she's petite like you. And I said, I met this amazing woman who does these ultra marathons. She goes, what's an ultra marathon? I said, 100 miles. She said, like, how long? I said, I think it's 24 hours. She's like, how do they do that? I go, don't know. Probably won't ever know. But she was like, that's amazing. She said, I never heard of that. I said, no, half of the diseases you guys named, nobody ever heard of that stuff either. So it doesn't make it wrong.
Exactly. We exist. Okay.
So cool. So how can this be a best service? Because I want it to be a universal for you to do. Are there certain questions I need to ask you so that you're not, you know, if I say it, if I promote it, it's called social proof. If you promote it, it's called bragging or talk about it. So. Right.
So Kyle wanted me to post something to explain all the breathing stuff.
Yep.
And so kind of how he did it in his interview might be beneficial. So you can ask me a question about what it's about, and then I can go into explaining it and we can go from there. And then as I explain it, I'll demonstrate on Damien, and then you can ask me more questions. And how does that sound?
Sure, absolutely. That works great for me.
Okay.
So Amy, say your last name.
Hold on one second. I'm adjusting something. It's Novoty.
Novoty.
Mm-hmm.
And Damien.
Yeah.
So if are you ready?
I am ready. Ready?
Hi everybody, I'm Sean Murphy and I'm here with Amy Novoty.
Oops, hold on one second.
Yeah.
I have to real quick. I'm hitting record, but I have to request permission from you.
I'm recording it, but just if you
okay, never mind. We're good now. We're good.
Okay, good.
Okay, sorry, we'll start over.
No, that's okay.
Novoty.
Got it.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Murphy, and I'm here with Amy Novoty. And I got to tell you, I met her just a week ago. Well, actually, yeah, 7 days ago on a Friday, I met her, and she talked about this amazing thing that she does called breathing. Like, how many of us really need to be schooled in breathing? You want to know the answer to that? All of us. And so she went through some of these breathing exercises that she's going to demonstrate here. But one of the things that I learned most about her is that in this dialogue, she's run over 20,000 miles in competition. And biggest reason she's been able to achieve that most of the time, majority of the time, pain-free, if not all of the time, is because what she's about to teach you here, what you're about to witness with our stand-in stud, say it. Damien. With our stand-in stud, Damien, who's going to actually be there and show you how the body needs to be kind of manipulated to get it back into normal state. So Amy, tell us about this breathing that you came across and you've learned, and you now fly around the world, and somebody actually had you go help them watch emperor penguins to teach them how to breathe, and you do it all over the world. Talk about this.
So we know that breathing is very important for getting oxygen in and out of our bodies, but we don't always think about how it affects our nervous system, our posture, our position of our bodies. And so when I started learning about the importance of breathing about 5 years ago, I started realizing it can have a huge impact on our lives, on our stress, on our ability to relax, and even on our pain levels. So I started taking some courses about breathing and how the diaphragm works. And before practicing on patients, I started practicing on myself. Because I know one of the most important things in order to teach someone something, I need to be able to do it myself and practice it myself before I can impart that knowledge on someone else. So at the time I was training for marathons and ultra marathons, and I didn't change my habits at all, but I started practicing the breathing. I kept my strengthening the same, my cardio workouts the same, but all of a sudden I started getting faster with my running. It just became easier. I didn't have to stretch. I didn't have to scrape or foam roll or do any of the things that are considered traditional physical therapy to get you out of inflexibility. And it showed up as results in my marathons too. The first marathon I did, after practicing the breathing, I dropped 7 minutes. And then the one after that, a couple months later, another 7 minutes dropped off. And so I was able to run a 3:19 marathon, which had never been possible for me before. I was in the upper 3:30s for all of my marathons. So to drop that much time off and going from a flat course to a hilly course and dropping that much time off was pretty significant. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and at the time I was doing traditional physical therapy. So I started implementing it into my treatments with patients and explaining how we can use breathing to change the way our body and our trunk is positioned, and how that can affect our mobility in our hips and our shoulders and allow for more freedom of movement, and also reduce muscle tension and stress. So, and it's
wow.
growth.
So, I mean, to take 14 minutes off in just a couple of months, I mean, most runners are happy with a couple of minutes off. Shaving a couple of minutes off would be like amazing. And you did like 14, and it's because you allowed the frame to get back in order because of breathing properly?
Yes. So what we can do with breathing is, a lot of time our rib cage and our sternum are not in the correct position. So I'm going to demonstrate on Damien here a little bit. So Damien is known in his circles as having very good posture, very upright. And when he speaks a lot to a lot of real estate groups, and he has a very upright posture. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too upright. So I'm going to turn you sideways. So go ahead and sit in your normal upright position, very upright at the edge of the chair. So normally he's very, very rigid. And so what happens is his rib cage was, even go more extreme. So his rib cage was pushed forward and elevated. It was kind of rotated on a hinge. So his sternum was a little bit too high. And so what that does is it closes down the space available for his shoulder and hip joints. And so what we have to do is get him back into neutral. So his breastbone comes down and his ribs go down, and they go back into position. And what that does is it changes the way the pelvis is sitting. And if you can put the pelvis back into neutral, it frees up the space in your hip joints. So your hips can move very easily when you're running. And the same thing goes for your shoulder joints. If your rib cage is in neutral, now your shoulder blades sit where they should, and it gives you freedom of motion in your shoulders. And this will allow you to do any activity for a prolonged period of time pain-free. So for running, I use the breathing a specific way to get the rib cage down into position. And then I also use the breathing to calm down my nervous system so the muscles up in this area stay nice and relaxed. When I did that, I could keep all the motion in my shoulders and hips, and it would allow me to run miles and miles and miles pain-free. And I've done this, up to 50 miles, even 100, and I've trained other people to be able to run up to 50 miles pain-free. And I give them these strategies with the breathing, and then also when they're running, I want them to be able to sense certain muscles. I want them to sense their sternum dropping down, their ribs coming down into position, and they breathe through that, so that way their nervous system learns that this trunk position and posture is their normal, and it gives them the availability to run without pinching tissues together.
That's pretty cool. So how did you find out or learn that this was a possibility? Did you study? Was it a shaman? I mean, because it's, when you had him sitting up, it's like I heard my mother say, well, you better put your shoulders back and sit up straight. And so nobody wants to disappoint their mom. So that's how we all wind up that way. But when you were pushing on me at the event and getting me, and you're like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, boy, that just seems unnatural, but it felt comfortable once I relaxed into it. Where did you learn this technique? Where did it come from?
So there's an institute called the Postural Restoration Institute out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And the founder, Ron Hruska, began studying the body and with many different healthcare professionals and looking at what happens on the inside of our body. So one of the premises of their institute is our body is very asymmetrical. And the diaphragm is one of our skeletal muscles, and it affects how we breathe. And we need to learn how to control it. And muscles inside our trunk, like our hip flexors, they attach differently on one side versus the other. So I started studying with them and taking courses with them on how this asymmetries affects our ability to move and the way we position ourselves. And over time of taking their courses, I learned about the importance of breathing. And since then, I've used my previous knowledge and experience with breathing, plus all the knowledge I've gained from their courses, to develop my own specific technique of how do I want someone to breathe. So I've kind of made it a more narrow focused and have a specific regimen of how I want a person to breathe to maximize their benefits of calming themselves down and getting the mobility back. So there's some overlap between my knowledge from the Postural Restoration Institute and what I'm teaching now, plus all of my other experiences that I've combined into what I call the PABR approach, which stands for PABR, and it gets people from pain to relief using awareness and breathing. So pain, awareness, breathing, relief. So that's what I am promoting now to help people, because I've seen such great results in all variety of cases, whether it's getting people out of stress, giving them more sleep, getting them more pain relief, or helping them avoid surgeries like a knee replacement or spine surgery, neck surgery, back surgery.
So Damien, I'm guessing you've been taught this because it was hard for you to get up into the straight position, right? She's saying, no, straight more is like, no. So what is it that, have you felt a difference? What have you experienced with learning this and incorporating this type of breathing?
The normal pain in the shoulders that I would get by sitting for a long time with proper posture really hasn't been there for the last probably 6 or 8 weeks, and it's because I'm not holding tension. I'm actually letting my breathing put my body into the right position. And I've noticed that because it used to be where I'd sit for a while and I was always in pain up in my shoulders and I was moving around and trying to get things right, but I was still up moving around. So it was never really fixing the core problem and I wasn't breathing right. So that one thing is really obvious in the shift. So it does make a huge difference in something as simple as sitting without pain.
Well, I know if I go to a chiropractor, the first thing he does is he, pulls your legs down a little bit and looks at your ankle bones to see if they're out of alignment. He goes, oh, you're a little out of here, out of there. And just the slightest little out of alignment there really helps the whole body. But this seems to be a chronic issue for most people, Amy, that the muscles have been tightened so much or have this memory, right? Because that's what you were working on me is to relax into this new state. And I've done it a few more times since each day, and I can, so there it is. What are people going to feel as they do this? If they're watching this and they're sitting home and they're going, okay, I got to let my sternum collapse a little bit, my rib cage collapse a little bit. How does somebody self-teach themselves this?
Okay, so we can go through the steps. So one thing I want to touch on before we get to those steps is when you mention the chiropractor and they do something to you. So a lot of traditional pain relieving methods, they approach it by doing something to you externally, whether it's twist you, manipulate you, whether it's doing stretching, acupuncture. So those are external methods to work on you to get you pain relief. And it's a great approach and it helps a lot of people. It doesn't always stick though, and that's one of the problems. Whereas this is an internal approach. We're making changes to your nervous system from the inside to relax your body and teach your nervous system not to send these abnormal signals to your muscles to contract and tighten up. Wow. So we're working on a more permanent change and giving you control over that so that you know what to feel. And so when you start to feel yourself tighten up, instead of going to get a massage, which is an external fix and just pushing on muscles and making it feel better, feels great, which I don't say anything bad about massages, we all want them. But you can also take the other approach of, I'm going to relax myself and let things learn how to not contract and let it go. So it gives you control over, I don't need to go get a massage for these tight shoulder muscles. I can learn to relax my sternum and these muscles will loosen up, which is what Damien has been practicing and why he now can sit for hours on end while he's at work and not feel that tension. So now to go through the breathing process, we're going to go through some basic steps first. So when we breathe, I'm going to have you sit back in the chair now. The steps for breathing, I'm going to have Damien breathe in through his nose, pause just a second, then blow out through his mouth, allowing his chest to drop down and his belly button to come loose and let it go forward. We're going to pause 3 seconds and then we'll repeat that cycle. And those are the basic steps and then we're going to add to it. So first you're going to have Damien breathe in through his nose and then blow out. And then you're going to feel the chest drop in, belly button come out, pause. 2, 3, gentle breath in through the nose. And then blow out. Chest is going to drop in, belly button's going to come out. We're going to pause. 2, 3. Now he's going to breathe in through his nose to his throat. So we're not trying to lift the chest up. We're trying to breathe in the nose to the throat, which feels restrictive. And then we're going to blow out, drop the chest down, belly comes out, pause. 2, 3, going to gently breathe in through the nose, trying to fill the throat up. So that way the shoulders don't lift. And then you're going to blow out, chest drops down, belly comes out. And you can see Damien knows how to do this because he used to lift up his shoulders and his chest to get air in. Go ahead and breathe in. But you can see now he doesn't do that. He gets air in. It fills in all up here in the upper back and upper chest, but it's not lifting the rib cage up. He no longer lifts his back, uses his back muscles to lift his chest up to get air in. Okay, now we're going to do it with the straw. And the reason I use a straw is because it helps keep our mouth open like a fish or a duck. And it also gives us auditory feedback because you want to be able to hear noise come out of the straw. Okay, so now he's going to breathe in through his nose and blow out. And you should hear a nice whooshing sound. Good. Pause. 2, 3, gentle breath in through the nose, filling the throat, and you'll feel a gentle expansion in the upper body. And then blow out, chest drops down, belly comes out. Good. Pause. 2, 3, gentle breath in without lifting the shoulders. It goes into the throat. And then blow out, the shoulders relax, your low back relaxes into the chair. You feel the ground under your heels. And with him, I'm going to bring his knees together a little bit. Pause. 2, 3, gentle breath in through the nose. And then what I tell people is when you're blowing out, it's as if you're trying to get away from your bra or your shirt as you blow out and your breastbone goes in and you create space under your armpits as your ribs drop down and your belly button comes out. And you have to let that belly button go because if you suck it up, it's going to elevate your ribs and lock them up high in an abnormal position. So we have to let that drop down and let that belly button come out so your side abdominal muscles can help pull the ribs down into the correct position. Okay. And then breathe in. And as we get more advanced, after we blow out, go ahead and blow out, you'll start to sense the side abdominal muscles pulling the ribs down. And you can learn how that feels and use those muscles to anchor your ribs down as you inhale. And if you're doing it correctly, it will feel like you're getting no air in, because that's how tight all these upper body muscles are, because they're so used to pulling on you 12 to 18 times a minute as you breathe in. So they've been taught to stay nice and tight by your nervous system and your body. So we have to learn how to let that all go, and then learn how to keep the ribs down. So when you breathe in, these muscles learn how to relax and expand, and it frees up your upper body. You gain your full motion back in your neck, in your shoulders. Everything starts moving better. You're able to twist and turn, and all that flexibility that you feel like you're not flexible and you don't have that movement, it all comes back. And it doesn't matter what age you are. As long as you can think and you can learn and sense, you can get it all back. Doesn't matter how arthritic you are. I have had people with bone on bone in their knee joints and be ready for knee surgeries because they've done injections, they've done the Synvisc injections. And by doing this and learning how to get their rib cage into position, all of a sudden their hips go back into position, their knees go back into position, the joints free up. And even though they still have arthritis, that wasn't the cause of their pain, and they can move again pain-free, and they've canceled their surgeries. So it works in all cases. Necks are a lot of big problem where you have numbness coming down the arms. They say it's a herniated disc. It's a matter of space not being available. So once we get the chest and the shoulders back into position and your rib cage back into position, you can free up the neck, the numbness goes away, you can avoid neck surgery, back surgery, can help with strokes. I've gotten stroke patients function back that they haven't had for 10 years after their stroke. So it's all this has to do with changing your nervous system and giving you that control back. Depending on how much you want to practice, how far you want to get, you have that control. And these are the tools to get there. So
I will say, when I was doing it here just now, and because you kept saying at the event and there after the event, breathe into your throat, I actually felt the swirling in my throat, kind of like cool air. I'm like, that's weird. But that was the first time you got to practice it, but it was cool to feel that. It's like, okay, so it's like this huge cavern, and I was standing there and I could just feel that wind swirling around. So it's kind of neat.
Yes, and one tip for that too is you can put the tongue to the roof of your mouth over your palate. That will change how the air is directed, and that can make it a little bit easier for you to get it into your throat and have that sensation.
Wow.
Yes.
So Amy, people have questions, they want to contact you. What's the best way for them to reach out and say, okay, walk me through this. I want to do a session with you. I want to do something. What's the best way for them to find you?
They can find me on the website, which is www.pabrinstitute.com. They can reach me there, and there's a link. You can send me an email. They can also reach me at amy@pabrinstitute.com. They can reach me also if they want. I have a 1-800 number, 1-800-963-3631. They can reach me those ways. They can also send me a message on Facebook if they want. They can search for my name as well. So
cool.
I'm happy to help anytime.
So here's the thing. You got on this mission, this journey, because it's worked for you.
Yes.
You just gave us a handful of examples of what it has done for people with certain diseases and discomforts, and when the body's not operating, when it is in dis-ease, not in ease. What are some of the big naysayers say about it when you're like, I'm breathing hokey pokey, but then all of a sudden they get it? What's the conversion? What's the switch for the naysayer?
So it's typically they come in and they don't want this woo-woo stuff, and they are used to strengthening and stretching, and they said, no, that's the only way to go. And so I'll feel them out first and see how much they want to learn. So I have many strategies for reaching someone. And so if someone wants to learn more, a lot of times education will provide that turning point where they'll say, I'll give it a chance. And what happens is during the first session, I have to make a change in them by getting rid of their pain and stress. And as soon as they feel that, I'll do a few things on them. As soon as they feel that, all of a sudden I've broken a chink in their armor. And then I tell them, you may not have been bought yet, but I just want you to practice this 3 times a day for the next 2 or 3 days until I see you again. And I just want you to be faithful. Everything until this point has not worked for you, which has led you to me, and just give it a chance. I'm giving you a tool to use for the next few days, and I want you to do it no matter what. Just believe in this for just a few days. And as soon as they start doing this, they feel a change and they're hooked. And those who have waited, and then I beg them, I have used so many different methods to get them to it, and I just begged them, I said, please, your pain is not changing. When you leave here, you're pain-free, but you go back to your habits. Just give this a chance. As soon as they start doing these exercises and procedures, their pain changes, it goes away. Every aspect of their life changes. Their mood, their pain, their energy level, their sleep, it all changes, and then they're hooked forever, and they will continue doing it. So it's just that shift in their mindset and their willingness to take control of their body that gets them. So.
Well, Amy, thank you for taking the time. Damien, thank you for being there. Thanks for being a good student and actually becoming having much less discomfort and being able to use this and be the example for us today. Amy, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we let them off and to go practice their breathing and replay this?
Yes, just thank you for your time. I appreciate what you've done for me today, Sean, and please reach out to me if you have any questions. I love answering questions, and this is one of my greatest passions. I hate seeing people in pain, especially when I know there's a way to get out of it. It's truly a remarkable feeling when you have that control back. So don't hesitate to reach out, please.
And I'm guessing this probably would be okay for kids, right? Like in school and stuff, who they're saying has the, the phone neck challenges and stuff.
Yep, I've treated many, many kids, all the way from 5 years old all the way up to older adults in their 80s and 90s. So this works for everyone. As long as you can think and process, you can do this.
Well, there you go, folks. Breathing, that thing we do naturally, but we've done it so unnaturally for so long. The actual best way seems unnatural. Make sure you get a hold of Amy. Make sure you ask her the tough questions, because I can promise you she's been around the world and answered probably most of them already, and she'll be there to help you. I appreciate y'all. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you. Bye-bye.